Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar where we're going to talk about successful data protection infrastructures and how to boost your business opportunities with them. I have two great speakers with me today, celebrating actually the 10-year anniversary of the alliance between Veeam and HPE. Parisa, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thanks, Christoph. Hi, my name is Parisa Mohammadi. I'm the Worldwide Solution Product Manager at HPE Storage. I've been with HPE Storage for almost 12 years, and for many of those years, I worked very closely with Veeam. My focus has been on data protection, data management, including containers and big data analytics, but it's been always a joy to work with Veeam, our partner, over these many years.
And Chris?
Yes, I'm Christopher Donahoe. I'm the Global Solutions Architect for the HPE Alliance here at Veeam, which means I maintain the technical partnerships for product management and engineering teams between HPE and Veeam. Based in Houston, Texas, and prior to filling HPE Alliance's roles, I worked in data center environments for 20 years. So I worked on a lot of the solutions we'll be presenting today, and I feel like I understand the customer pains that we're trying to overcome when they go through the process of choosing hardware for the data center infrastructure and software to help manage and protect that infrastructure.
Well, that's excellent, because we are going to go into some level of detail actually on these topics, and certainly want to bring up some of the important trends that we see in the market. My name is Christophe Bertrand. I'm an analyst at ESG, and what I do is I look at the market. I've been in this business of data protection, storage, backup, and recovery for too many years, and I've certainly seen a lot of changes in the past few years, and also a lot of great solutions being brought to market by ecosystem partnerships such as this one. So we'll get into those details. Before we start, let me sort of put things in context and explain why it matters to really build the right type of infrastructure to protect your data and actually maintain your data protection SLAs, your recovery point objectives and recovery time objectives. Here's why. Downtime is really something you can't tolerate anymore in our modern economy and for modern organizations. Look at those consequences. Look at what could happen should anything come up. Let me explain what you're looking at. We asked organizations here, hundreds of IT professionals responded to this, what happens when there is downtime and the type of impact that the organization they work with would suffer from. You can see there are two sets of numbers. In the dark blue, you see all of the impacts that could happen, so it's kind of a popularity vote, whereas in the green, you see the one most important impact. So that's what you're looking at in terms of data. And what's interesting here is you could see there are already 3 or 4 types of impact buckets, and they're all pretty bad. Certainly employee type of impacts, with employee productivity being one of the most popular choices. And it does make sense. When something comes up, you're not ready, downtime happens, it's going to be all hands on deck. But look also at what it does to the IT organization in general, operationally. So operational impacts like the diversion of IT resources, the potential impact on revenue as well from a business standpoint, and also all the reputational consequences that could come up. So the net is this: really, there's no time for downtime. Now, let me substantiate that by getting into some of those service levels that I talked about, those KPIs. I'm going to start here with recovery time objective. And what you're looking at here is 2 data sets. We ask organizations, the same people, to tell us, for your mission critical applications, as you can see in the lighter green, tell us how much downtime you can tolerate. And then for other applications or normal applications, so non-mission critical, tell us that same, answer that same question. That's why you see 2 sets of data here. It turns out that 15% can tolerate no downtime. So that's 1 in 6, 1 in 7 respondents. That's actually a pretty big number. It also means that if you think about the 1 sort of hour window, it's kind of arbitrary, but I think a lot of us think in that 1 hour sort of time frame when it comes to downtime. Turns out about 57% said that responded that their mission critical data has to be, or applications has to be back online in that time frame. For normal data, it's about 35. It's still a pretty tall order. The net is this. There is not only no time for downtime, but the requirements are very stringent. How can you deliver against those requirements with your infrastructure, whether in a data center, in the cloud, or combination thereof? How do you manage your environment? How do you orchestrate everything between the hardware, the software, the network, so that it really supports your objectives? So that's for downtime. That's recovery time objective, or RTO. There's, of course, recovery point objective. How much data can you afford to lose? So here it's a slightly different perspective, because obviously we're looking at the loss of transactions, potentially, the actual loss or destruction of data. Very clearly, you see that sort of same 15% that didn't want any downtime, they also don't want to lose any data. And that makes perfect sense. Probably looking at highly available type of environments. But if I draw the line again at the 1 hour of data loss here, arbitrarily, you can see it's most of the respondents. As a matter of fact, you can see really after a few minutes, clearly organizations get concerned and have set objectives such that they really minimize the amount of data loss. Again, I want to say here, easier said than done. You need to really have the right type of infrastructure in place, processes and people to get this done. These are objectives, not necessarily actuals. Actuals actually vary a little bit. People don't always meet their objectives. But it starts with having the right solution in place. So I have a few characteristics I've been looking at that I think are important to really sort of get the infrastructure built correctly. And based on research and experience that I have in the space, with many years in the space in storage and data protection around products and solutions, I think really when you think about it, ease of use is obviously something that most modern IT professionals are expecting. And it's not just ease of use, it should really also be ease of deployment. You don't want to second guess yourself when you're using the solution. You want it to be easy to understand, easy to deploy, easy to use. And hey, if you need to, you can double click and triple click. But I think it's fair to say that in this day and age, we don't really have so many PhDs in backup and recovery anymore. You need to be able to cater to the IT generalist and really have a way to deploy solutions that are well understood and well documented. I mentioned RPO and RTO, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that. You've seen the data. It's very clear. There is no time for downtime, very little tolerance for data loss, high bar on these two. Now, performance is an interesting one, and I should maybe say performance at scale, because everything's fun and games until you get at scale, right? So having the right fit in terms of the ability to perform from a backup recovery standpoint, snapshotting perspective, recovery perspective, et cetera. It influences, obviously, your RPO and your RTO and your ability to recover data. And then, you know, that scalability that I just mentioned, it's not just performance at scale, it's just sheer scalability. Why? Because guess what? The only statistic we have about the future is that there's going to be more data. So you're going to have to back up more data, protect more data, and as data gets more and more reuse, you're probably going to have to move a lot more data around. Now, this should really happen in a context of an ecosystem integration. Again, I think we're at the 10-year mark for this partnership between Veeam and HPE. So what I'd like to do is ask Parisa first to please give us your perspective on what I just described and what the research shows.
Sure. Well, first of all, as you mentioned, our partnership, the HPE and Veeam partnership, I do want to mention that our active ongoing R&D collaborations helps give our joint customers a really broad choice in placing data where it makes sense to protect their mission critical applications. And, you know, the result has been amazing. Our customers really benefit through huge time savings as they deliver against their service level agreements because of the RPO, RTOs that you mentioned, you know, smaller backup windows, shorter recovery times. And what we are hearing from our customer base, from our field, is that the solution should really leverage technologies or, you know, architectural designs that really bring the RPOs and RTOs as close to zero as possible. And the reason that we are collaborating together is to bring in API integrations that actually optimize the performance and the data integrity to provide some complementary and additional RPO and RTO support. So it's all been positive, and we are encountering some delightful customers in many of these areas, whether it's performance, whether it's scalability, or ease of use.
Oh, this is great. And really, it's not just the objectives, it's the actuals too, right? So that's a fantastic collaboration. Chris, I'd like to get your perspective from the Veeam side of things.
Yeah, so if I look at this slide and pick a favorite, I like to speak from just my experiences as a customer. Yeah, and when I transitioned into alliances roles and supporting on sell sides and presenting to guys back to myself like I was for for so long, I like to talk about just my experiences with the product. And when I started with Veeam, I knew a lot about HPE hardware from being a customer for so long, and managing that hardware for many years, but I didn't actually have a lot of experience with Veeam, with the Veeam platform. But even without that deep knowledge of the software, I was able to get about 75% of the backup environment configured before I had to really start reading the user guide and asking questions to the solutions architects that I was working with there. So I can personally attest to the ease of installation, configuration, use of the Veeam product, and just to speak to the HPE hardware, as a customer for so many years for HPE, I can tell you that was my primary reason for going with HPE products. The ease of use, reliable hardware, great customer service. So our two companies together really make this an unequal data protection experience. You referenced also performance at scale, and at Veeam, we love our small customers and enterprise customers alike, and I personally think that's also the great thing about our software and our partnership with HPE is that I don't really think a lot changes drastically as we scale. Scaling performance is a matter of just scaling the backup infrastructure along with it. So whether you're protecting hundreds of VMs or tens of thousands of workloads, customers can expect that same level of data protection performance really at any size.
Got it. And I think it's a very important point here, and I want you to sort of stay on that thought of leveraging the hardware. As a matter of fact, I'm curious about one specific hardware component or solution, which is the HPE Nimble DHCI. And so how does it work with Veeam? How does it integrate? And please make sure you read the instruction manual. That's really bad advice. Right? People read the user guide all the time, right?
Yeah. I'll give an overview here without going into the entire instruction manual there. But yeah, just to kind of go from left to right here, just focusing on Nimble DHCI. First I would start out with our snapshot integration with Nimble. This is a nice overview to show how HPE and Veeam together achieve those low RPOs and RTOs and the flow of the backup data to backup targets. But to focus in on snapshot integrations, customers can perform those orchestrated snapshots from the Veeam UI. So they can schedule snapshots just like any other job, and they can also recover from those snapshots just like any other job, and also run advanced data reuse features. The second advantage for snapshot integration is that we can pull backup data directly from HPE primary storage and go to one of these HPE targets on the right of the slide. So that helps in the production environment by reducing pressure on the hypervisor. We pull the backup directly from the storage and go to one of these targets on the right, which I can go into more detail about that in a second. But just to cover off the what I would also refer to as one of our main selling points as well for snapshot integration is data reuse features. Customers can take advantage of Veeam data labs for DevOps use, staged restores for regulatory compliance, and secure restores for protection against malware. With each one of these options, workloads can be restored into an isolated environment where customers have the option to run testing or other evaluation prior to allowing the workloads to be migrated back into production. And for repository options, I know Parissa's may go into more detail here in a minute, but it's really a customer discussion. Whether you want data reuse scenarios with Nimble Hybrid Flash, and all-in-one backup infrastructure option with Apollo, the dense data footprint of the store once. It's really a customer conversation, and for a complete 3-2-1 data protection strategy, you can definitely combine these repository options as well to create multiple copies of your backup data and move backup data offsite.
Well, this is great, and actually, Parissa, I'd love to get your perspective in two areas. Number one, this target option that you have with HPE, and then maybe we'll talk about the 3-2-1. I think that's a very important point. So let's talk about this integration, the different targets, and sort of what should customers think about when they look at their options.
Yeah, so thanks for that opportunity, because I do want to talk about all the amazing integration points we have between HPE and Veeam, covering the HPE portfolio. And of course, the whole objective around this is to deliver faster, simpler, more automated solutions, so our customers don't have to manage their data protection infrastructure themselves. And with Veeam 11 enhancements, these all extend into all of these integration points on this slide that you're showing. And I'll start out with our HPE Primera and HPE Nimble platforms, where our customers can leverage storage snapshots for very fast and short-term retention without really impacting their production data. And then moving on to some backup targets, as Chris had mentioned, we have the HPE Store Once appliance, which is amazing in terms of being able to air gap the secondary storage from primary arrays so that unauthorized access can be prevented. And I will go a little bit more into detail on that later. And then a second backup target is the HPE Nimble Adaptive Flash, which really lets you leverage the secondary storage for some other use cases like DevOps and dev test. And you can also benefit from fast granular restore and instant recovery. And then if you want a super fast backup, the HPE Apollo server can be used for both backup processing and storage with 11 gigabytes per second backup speed. Now, that's really, really fast. And then let's not forget about the cloud. With integration of HPE Cloud Volumes, backup, and Veeam, data sets can actually be backed up to the cloud of your choice using existing Veeam-based backups.
This is fantastic, and what's really nice too is because of all these years of partnership, everything's well documented. There is really no guesswork in a sense, just really focusing on what's best for the client, for the customer, for the end user, based on their requirement. Now, you brought up air gapping and a couple of points around this 3-2-1 strategy, and really what it's about is ransomware, right? I mean, it's everywhere. I didn't provide any research on that, but believe me, there's unfortunately too much. So I'd love for you to take us through the 3-2-1 strategy and how that really plays out when you combine both technologies.
Yeah, so what's really cool about the HPE and Veeam solution is that, first of all, it spans the entire spectrum of availability and protection, regardless of where the data resides. So HPE actually owns the most comprehensive portfolio of integrated Veeam solutions that really span primary storage, secondary storage, and of course the cloud. And with this joint and end-to-end solution, you can easily follow the 3-2-1 practice that you mentioned. And that is specifically important when you want to not just safeguard your data, but actually protect it against ransomware or malicious attacks. So it goes like this. So you keep 3 copies of your data on 2 different media types and 1 copy offsite. So the first copy is on the HPE primary storage snapshots, as you can see here. The second one is on one of our HPE backup targets. And the third is offsite on either a StoreEver tape library or on the cloud of your choice through HPE Cloud Volumes Backup. Now, we talked about malicious attacks, we talked about ransomware attacks. So this solution protects you against ransomware. With HPE Store Once as a backup target, the Catalyst protocol is the secret sauce that protects against any malicious access to your backups. Basically, it blocks those accesses to the backup. And if you choose to use HPE Apollo as your backup target, you're protected against ransomware because of Veeam's Linux immutability.
Well, it sounds like a perfect solution for ransomware. Immutability is key. Protecting the protector, really, that's the way to look at this. Look, we've covered a lot of ground in only a few minutes, and really, in summary, what I really want to do for our viewers here is sort of net it out, right? So we know there are lots of reasons to have great infrastructure in place because of the stringent RPOs and RTOs we need to meet. But it's really about faster backups. I mean, I look at these combinations, the various options you offer together. Definitely lots of ways to get to faster backups that, of course, has a direct influence on your ability to recover and how quickly you recover. The orchestration of primary and secondary snapshots, I think, again, that's key. Sort of distributing the workload, but being smart about who does what and when, and orchestrating everything. It can get very complex very quickly, especially as you try to achieve those lower RPOs and those great RTOs. That results into what I just mentioned, those faster or actuals, not necessarily objectives, but now you can certainly set more stringent objectives, but more importantly, deliver on them. So I think that's kind of at the end of the day, that may be even the most important thing right before data reuse. Why? Because you cannot, let that data do nothing for you. You want to reuse it. It's an asset. It can be reused for certainly cybersecurity purposes, compliance, test DevOps, analytics, lots of ways to reuse data. It's what I call intelligent data management. So in combination, and Chris, maybe you can summarize for us. I think, 10 years, great solutions, lots of ways to use the combination of technologies, and more importantly, some great technical and business results that you can get out of it. Chris, what's your take as to summarize what I just mentioned here?
Yeah, so I really enjoy doing these calls with Parissa and other representatives of HPE, because you can hear as we go through our conversation, I feel like we should change places, because we're really celebrating each other's portfolios. We talk about the ease of use of and reliability of HPE products. HPE talks about the ease of use and reliability and scalability of Veeam products and our portfolio together, and that's a testament to just how long we've been working together. Like you said, to introduce the whole discussion, we've been we just passed celebrated our 10th anniversary together of our alliance with HPE. They are our #1 global strategic alliance at Veeam. Our alliance is the longest running alliance together with HPE and Veeam, and it's the largest amount of integrations with Veeam. HPE has the largest amount of integrations with Veeam than any other alliance that we have, and all of that kind of combines into being this #1 selling. We have the most customers with HPE than any other alliance that we partner with. So, Yeah, we obviously work well together, and we have every intention of continuing our co-innovation efforts to benefit our mutual customers.
This is great. There's nothing like a great ecosystem partnership. Certainly celebrated in the field. I know that there are so many customers that have really benefited from the solution and been able to get out of Dodge really from a backup recovery standpoint with your solution. So definitely great job, and certainly happy anniversary there on the 10 years. Well, that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for watching us, and please take a look at the attachment tabs. It has everything you need there: the white paper, the resource book, links to download this presentation, and to also try the Veeam suite of software. Parisa, thank you. Chris, thank you. It was great having you today.